At first I thought it was like, you can't pull me and your wife wherever in the world you want to go. And then I went to sleep that night and God woke me up and said, you're fighting the wrong battle.
We may look different and live in different countries, yet our stories are knitted with the same threads of excitement, uncertainties, challenges, and victories. As we journey through the ups and downs of life, it is our undeniable will and God's strength that propel us to joy after pain, smile after frowns, and ups after downs. We were born to win. We were destined to greatness. We are overcomers. Welcome to God Scoops, raw and unedited stories. Welcome to Raw and Unedited Stories on God Scoop. I am Patricia Daly, your host. Today with us is Calee King, a former Miss Jamaica World contestant. A mother, a Christian. Welcome, Calee, to Raw and Unedited Stories. How are you doing today?
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited. I hope it's not showing too much in my face. Just proud of all you're doing and just sharing these stories. There's no time like now in our world that people really just need to hear authentic stories and, how people are journeying.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Calee, tell us about yourself. Who are you? Where were you born?
Well, I proudly hail from Jamaica. I was born at the University of the West Indies, Jamaica. Uh, and when I got to about 7, our family moved to England for a few years. So I definitely have a combination of those two countries influencing, who I am from an early age. I was born to Rosalie and Carl Schmidt. I have 2 siblings, a sister who is 1 year younger than I am, and then a brother who is a few years younger than she is. I grew up in a very musical home, a very Christian home. We could listen to nothing else but Christian music. So it was just very sheltered, very, very, very sheltered home, loving parents, a family that would always get together, our extended family, very Christian, very traditional brethren. So there were a lot of expectations religiously of you, what you wore as a woman, what that implications meant to, go on a stage. And so I grew up with a lot of rules. And I remember for a long time, from as very young as I can remember, how much I felt like a misfit because I knew I loved Jesus, but I had these desires that were outside of what was expected of me. For instance, I wanted to have a nose ring and I just thought it was the simplest thing, or I wanted a double piercing. And I just remembered in my church, it was a big abomination to even think, those things. And I remember just feeling so different and wanting so much more than these boundaries allowed me. And then I later found out in life that God just loved me just the way I was, and He had so much intention for who I was. But it took a long time for me to, find that He loved me and He didn't condemn me.
Calee, thank you for sharing that detail about yourself. And as we talk now about your story, your life journey, talk to us about where your challenges really began in your life.
Mhm.
Just your journey. Let's talk about that and talk to our listeners and viewers.
Okay. I think if I could go back as like just trying to uproot where all, I don't know. I think my personal issues. I think I love my parents to death, and I think, and just trying to just protect their image. I think they were amazing, amazing parents who did the best they could and the best they knew how. I had a dad who treated me like a princess, probably spoiled me. So I was borderline, just got anything I wanted. He was very affirming, very positive. And then I had a mother who didn't want us to focus on beauty and, outward things. And so I think in an effort with good intentions, I don't believe I got the kind of affection where she would say, I love you every day, or she would embrace you, or she would say, you are pretty. You know, she gave me everything I needed. She gave me the Lord. So let me just put that out there. But I find that, you know, every child needs something different. And for me, I really needed those words of affirmation, I think, especially from my mother, right? And I think how that translated was later on in life when I got to high school. I remember I had a friend and she was going on a date with a guy. And the guy looked across at me and said, wow, your friend is pretty. And I think that must have been the first time that it really stood out to me. And I remember not being very academic in school. I really struggled with math and English. And, you know, when my brother and my sister and my cousins were excelling, you know, I remember not feeling that I had any value. I just couldn't find where I fit. I just knew I was a nuisance and I had some extreme desires and nobody knew where to place me. So if you can imagine somebody just floating around lost in the world, just trying to find where they placed and where they couldn't be valued. And the first point of value that I remember, not that my aunts and other people, I'm sure, didn't affirm me, but it just really connected in high school. And then, you know, that probably was when I was like, oh, my only value is in being pretty. So let's go for that. And, you know, that's something I could finally be recognized for.
Right.
And I hate to admit it, and I think that's probably what led me down the journey to even joining a competition like Miss Jamaica. My family was, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so tell me, Calee, thank you for just starting there, because that's what I was just getting ready to talk to you about. How did you transition from high school and feeling you needed more affirmation to joining Miss Jamaica World contestant and Miss World? Talk to us about your journey.
So I know in a new age world, they call it manifestation, but I know in the word it says, you know, write your vision and make it plain. And I remembered as a little kid, I would journal a lot. And I remembered writing down a list of things that I wanted to accomplish in my life. And on it, I think I was about 16 and I want to win or join Miss Jamaica. And I left. I never ever thought it would come around. You know, I even think I had California, just like really absurd things that from my standpoint, where I was and where I was living and where I was in my life, I could never have envisioned it. But I just put it there and kept it there safely on a little yellow notepad in my bedroom.
Right.
And a friend of mine when I was 25, so this is what, 25 is the final age to enter Miss Jamaica.
Right.
So you are competing with 18-year-olds who are a lot slimmer, fitter, younger, radiant. And so a friend of mine said, why don't you, you know, join? And they had at that time they split the country in half. So they had some mini competitions before the main competition. So they had Miss Jamaica World Western and then the other. So I started in Miss Jamaica World Western.
Yes.
I actually won Miss Jamaica World Western. So I was crowned Miss Jamaica World Western. And what that does, it automatically puts you in the top 10 for Miss Jamaica World. So I went with an advantage from then. And to backtrack, I think since I was on a trajectory of, okay, your beauty can take you somewhere.
Right.
So I think maybe that was my motivation to see, I wonder what doors I can open here for myself. My family was completely against it. As I said, they're very traditional Christian brethren. And the idea of celebrating or adorning yourself or just putting the flesh out there, you know, it would never stand with them whatsoever. So I had no support from them in terms of monetary background, all the things that all the other contestants had, like doing their hair and nails or dress, or their moms coming with them to choose outfits. Like it was a soul, it was my soul endeavor. And so it made it even, you know, harder, but I knew it was something that was in my heart and I've always wanted to do it. And so I encourage people, I don't know, just to just, you know, go after your dreams, whether or not anybody's backing it. But not that I thought this was healthy for me, but I went in anyway, because this is all I knew, you know. And so I won Miss Jamaica World Western, and it was a beautiful thing to be seen and affirmed, and it kind of just put me down that same path that I was going. I was like, oh, you see, like this is all I have to offer.
So Calee, did that experience build your self-esteem from there on? And talk to us about your journey after, and what you learned from then, and how it propelled you to move forward into the working world and into marriage and all of that. Let's talk about that.
Okay, perfect. So, sorry, top 10, and then I won Miss Jamaica World Sports. I came up in the fashion, and then I was a finalist in Miss Jamaica World. And once that happened, and during the competition, the internet is blowing up with people just, pulling you apart. And what I found happened was a lot of opportunities opened for me at that part of my life. A lot of opportunities, people wanted to get to know me, people wanted me to pay me for gigs. Photographers were seeking me out for photos. And I said, wow, this is the best thing that has ever happened to me, because it really just opened up doors. From there, I was dating a guy at the time. How do I even fit this in? Morelands Camp is a big part of my life. It's a Christian camp that I grew up going to from I was 9.
Right.
And you kind of grow up in the system and you start to counsel. And so my then husband was living on property, running and managing things. And so he was the only one backing me during my competition. So we were dating, and he was there with his sign. And so he was that one thing, just supporting me through that leg of the journey. Where are we, Pat?
Yes, we're talking about how did you transition from being an insecure younger woman, and then experiencing Miss Jamaica World competition and building your self-esteem, and then meeting somebody and getting married.
Yeah.
That's where you are.
Right. So it started from there. It started from there, and it was the biggest deal because my ex-husband, the guy I was dating at the time, was a pro skateboarder, professional skateboarder. And so, he was known in Jamaica, and people would, seek him out for events, 50 Fest. And then he'd host camps where people would come and learn to skate. And then he would help the people in the neighborhood skateboard and whatnot. And I had just parted ways in a relationship before this whole thing with who I was dating. And a friend of mine said, I think somebody thinks you're cute. Would you entertain dating someone? And then we found out who it was. And then we went on a rapid, I would say we met, we dated, and we got engaged and married all within 1 year.
Wow.
Everything happened within a year.
Yes.
And what I liked about him was his support. And I liked how he served the poor and loved the people. And he reminded me of my grandfather and my dad as a missionary. And so this is all I knew. And so I thought this was probably the healthiest decision I was making.
Calee, hold on. Wait a minute.
Yes.
How did he pursue you? Let's talk about the romantic part. You can't leave that part out.
Oh my gosh. It was the most amazing pursuit I had ever undergone. This is 25. So I remember thinking my family would tease me and say I'm a 1-year girl, because I would date from the time I was 15, and they're like, Calee's going to be done with the guy in a year. And I think the longest relationship I had was like 3 years, and they were like, whoa, this is it. And that wasn't the guy I was then. But anyway, so the person, listen, so he lived in Mandeville, and he would drive to Kingston, where I was, pick me up from my workplace, take me to Portmore, and head home every Thursday. And I think this would go on for months.
Wow.
And he's an artist, so he would draw these elaborate paintings and pencil them in proper detail of me. He really went all out. We date, and it was just a beautiful thing. I didn't necessarily feel the chemistry at first, but because of how he seemed to love me, and I remember your parents always saying, love a guy who loves you more than you love them.
Yes.
Thing. And I said, boy, if he's really going all out, he loves the Lord, and he's doing, all of these very missional things, like there's no flaw. I would listen to him on the phone with his mother, who was in the States, and he would always answer her calls. I was like, oh my gosh, he's attentive to his mother. So all the things you learn.
So I'm capturing here that actually I'm gleaning that he captured your heart.
Definitely. If I know people talk about growing in love, and I believe that was definitely what happened for me. Like, I definitely grew to love him genuinely.
Yes. So now we talk about, let's fast forward, right? So we're talking about marriage now, and
Yeah.
what is a beautiful part of marriage, and how did that change? Let's get
Yeah.
there.
I mean, we're excited to be married. Just all the things you think about. You get to get excited about, your husband coming home, preparing meals together, planning vacations away. All of those things were a reality. And the most beautiful part of it is like you're so excited to leave and cleave and submit, especially as a young bride. I was 25, and I think 3 months after we got married, I conceived my first child. And by the time she was born, we decided as a family to move back to California. It was my, his idea to move to the States. And, he had been a missionary for a long time. So we figured, and we kind of felt the Lord saying, let's move to a place where we live up amongst the people who had a form of godliness, but they were very lukewarm.
Right.
So I was excited. I mean, I love Jamaica. It was I remember it being hard for me to agree to leave, but I was low-key excited about having a husband that I could lead this life with and submit to him and just see where God would take us.
Yes.
So we packed up our family and we moved to California, Seal Beach, California, beach town, just perfect. Yeah. And yeah.
Wow. So what changed?
I am still trying to figure that out. I always believe that it takes two persons to. I think what happens when you're that young is that you are growing and you're trying to figure things out.
Yes.
We are away from our community in Jamaica. We had a huge community of Christian friends when we were here that would hold us accountable. We'd share life with them.
Yes.
We couldn't have any weaknesses that weren't under a magnifying glass, and people who we couldn't share authentically with. And I think the danger for us as young married couple with a baby was moving away from this anchorage that we had to go to the world. California is just California, right? And it's so easy to get lost in all of that. So I would say, we got lost along the way. And I think what would have helped us the most is if we had our community. And the persons that we thought we knew and met were not. And so much pulled us apart.
Right.
And so everything that we had gone for just turned upside down, entirely on its head. I would never have believed it. I mean, we were the picture perfect couple. Skateboarder and I was the Miss Jamaica. We were in Gleaner articles, the Observer. People, the Jamaica Tourist Board called us down to do a travel show together. We did one when we were dating, and then we did one. They loved it so much they called us back when we were, just arrived in the States. We flew down and we did it. So it was he and I.
Yeah, pretty much a picture perfect.
And everybody was on for the ride, and they really adored us as a couple.
Yes. So tell me, what was the straw that brought the camel's back?
I mean, there's so many straws. I don't know if there is one particular one. I think these kind of things just grow from resentment. Whether, things, as I said, I think we just, I would just say, probably, as you said, not having a community and having sin infiltrate our lives. And it just definitely moved us apart, whether or not we tried to make it work, but it was just there was I woke up with anxiety attacks. It was just a really difficult season. And I think especially being so sheltered growing up, you believe in staying married forever. You believe this thing will work. You're a Christian, you come together, and at all costs you will things work. But I think that's what really hit me, that it could.
What caused you to get up one day and say you don't want this marriage anymore? You want out. You want it out. What really caused you to do that? Really, to say, because what you're telling me, it's things that people are still working through and they're still together in But then you got up one day and say, I don't want this anymore. I want it out. What was it?
I really tried to make it work beyond our issues. But I think I went to a Christian council because we grew up in a Christian church. So you really don't leave your marriage. There's nothing that, makes you leave your marriage. Not infidelity, not anything. You kind of just stay and work it out. And I thought, that's what I'm here to do. But I went to a Christian counselor one day and they said to me, hey, if you don't leave, it's going to be like a fan blowing on paper, and you're going to keep trying to fit those papers back into a stack, and it's going to keep blowing, and it's never going to. So I don't think, the change that I was hoping for was coming, and there are just so many elements that I just picked myself up one day and went to the courtroom and said, and obviously it was the last thing I wanted to do. I still get emotional thinking about it, because I often think that when you save yourself from a situation,
right,
you're thinking you are, but then there's a child that's involved, and then it becomes selfish for them. So I remember just having 2 daughters at that time. I just don't know what to do. I can stay and be unhappy, and they're going to experience just the unhappiness, just everything that comes from an unhappy union.
Right.
And I just didn't know.
So Calee, did you say he changed significantly? His character change, after, from dating to the first stage of marriage, to the point where you got to where you just couldn't take anymore.
Definitely. So the person I met, and he would probably say the same about me, the person I met was just flipped upside down. It was like a 180. I didn't know that person anymore. I did not know who this was. This is not what I had bargained for. This is not who I married at all. So I did not know that person.
Right. And do you know that when people finally pull apart and they decide that this is enough, it's just one thing that they can't deal with, one thing. I say, no, I can't handle this. Was there that one thing?
Definitely. There was that one thing for sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's move forward now to talk about the divorce and how it impacted you and your children, and also later on we can talk about how you're dealing with all of that as a single mother. Well.
Yeah. It just all brings it back. I don't think I've talked about it in a little bit, so I feel a little emotional because as a little girl and as any woman, you think about getting married and having a perfect family, and it's hard because you see all your friends moving on, being married with a couple, as a couple with their kids. And then I'm suddenly the misfit in my group. I'm suddenly the one mom with the kids. I go through boats of hopelessness, thinking, I'll never get married again, even though I deeply desire it. And then there are days when I believe it happening and I try to trust. It's very tough to be a single mom. I'm actually happy that I have girls and boys, because I think, men really need their dads. Girls need their dads. Yes. And so I made it a point to have their dad involved in their life.
Right.
So long story short, we moved back to Jamaica together. It was his idea. Didn't think it was possible, because as I tell you, when we got married, we thought I was going to California, maybe a short-term mission trip, maybe not a year, and then we'd come back. 8 years later, I'm in the States without my partner and plan.
Right.
So that entire time not knowing what my purpose was, because we went with a plan.
Yes.
Completely blindsided. You cannot understand the process. I remember feeling numb as a human, but I knew that if I drank my pain away, it would get worse. I couldn't smoke. I would just go and sit in the church and sit in the pews, numb, not loving God, not sensing Him, not feeling anything. Right. Because I felt entirely betrayed and I felt lost. Might as well I just had been dead. Because if I come on a mission with a person, I abandon my own desires, hopes, dreams, and the plan flips upside down. Now, what do? I'm on my own with 2 kids in tow.
Yes.
The deep sorrow and uncertainty and darkness, I don't think I could fully describe.
So tell me, Calee, I really can understand how that emptiness that you felt, because as if you lost an arm, because you're used to that arm every day using it, and then one day it's not there.
Yeah.
And how did you manage as a mother and still take care of your little girls?
I don't know. I mean, it has to just be the full grace of God. I have no family. I had no family there with me, no mother, no father, no aunt, nobody to rely on. Thank God for the good people of the church and the people in my community that would help when I really opened up. A lot of that time I remember just being depressed. I think what kept me going was having these kids. So I had to wake up for them. I had to take them to school. I had to feed them. But the minute they'd go off to dad on those 3 days, I would just curl up in bed, and my friends would have to come and wake me up in the morning and say, "Come, we're leaving the home."
Right, right,
Because, all of it was a show for them,
right,
being present with them. But then what I was feeling inside when I was left with just myself, there was nothing there.
right.
There was nothing there.
Wow, and you said that you moved to Jamaica. You moved back to Jamaica, and
Yeah,
of course your family is in Jamaica now.
right.
Your
I
extended
remember
family.
not thinking I'd come back because he got remarried and to an American woman. So I was like, okay, well, if my ex-husband is remarried to American, that would guarantee that I'm going to be stuck here for a while. There's no reason for them to move back. So I just remember mourning that and just watching all my kids, all my friends' kids grow up together. Christian homes, Christian people, and this is always a dream for our kids to grow up together. When I had our friends when we were younger,
Yes,
and just seeing it happen and bypass me, and just feeling so isolated. And I prayed every day for 8 years, and finally my ex-husband looked at me and said, "Hey, I have some business interest in Jamaica. I want to move back."
mm-hmm.
At first I thought it was like, "You can't pull me and your wife wherever in the world you want to go." And then I went to sleep that night, and God woke me up and said, "You're fighting the wrong battle. I'm
Mm-hmm.
giving you your answer, and to move back, and here you are fighting it." So I called my mother the next day and I said, "You need
Yes,
to come and help me pack up." And this was 3 years ago. And she came and we packed up our house. We had a yard sale downstairs. We sold all the things we could. I think
yes,
I might have had 500 US in my name by the time we were done with the bags on our back, because everything had to go. And we moved back to Jamaica. And let me tell you, God has been so deeply faithful. My kids now have their community. Uh,
yes,
we have family. I have a great neighbor where I'm so surrounded by good fellowship. It
yes,
doesn't negate that I do sense a deep loneliness and hopelessness with being married again. I think I've tasted and felt what marriage felt like, what sex feels like,
yes,
and those things don't leave you. So
absolutely.
I struggle on a monthly basis,
Right.
just like crying out to God, because I'm like, God, you could never, and I'm careful about expectations, because you really you shouldn't have any, because God brought us into this world. We're very entitled.
Mm-hmm.
Having tasted marriage, um,
Yes,
it's now hard to draw back from that. So it's like a puzzle piece, and one piece of your life is missing. And so every single day of my life, I try to put it back. And I think that's where the trauma, my friend always tells me I pronounce that word wrong. He says it's trauma.
yes.
Um,
Calee,
yes.
talk to me about, and I want you to be very candid. Talk to me about just being a single mother, trying to find a partner that is compatible to your girls, because of course, we're living in a world where single mothers are very much vulnerable in taking on men with who will actually take care of their children
Yeah.
and not go the other way of abusing them. So let's be candid about that.
Yes. So listen, you see, if God came today and said, "You had faith, but you did nothing," that wouldn't be me, because shamelessly, I go after my desires. I'm not one to sit back and say, "God will bring him. I'm just going to sit down in my sofa and God will bring him." No, I am actively people. I'm on 3 different dating sites. I've met several gentlemen, lovely and I have really tried to put myself out there. Maybe I could stop eating a little bit. Maybe that would help. But I've met a love. And nothing has clicked in a form of long term. I have friends from the app. I think I would, recommend it. I mean, I don't know if I want to recommend since nothing has come of it, but I have definitely done due diligence with trying to put it back together, and it hasn't happened for me. It hasn't happened for me. I think
Yes.
I have to consider that I have kids, and I'm getting old, and I guess the insecurities in my head are like, oh, I'm older. He could go for a younger version of me. He could find somebody without kids. There are a
Yes.
lot of things that play on my mind as to why it hasn't worked, and then I go into, oh, but God has him for me, so I just need to wait. So I think if I could confess my biggest trial, it's just like trying to navigate that space. Would I be okay if God said there was nobody forever and I'd live alone for the rest of my life? I don't want to accept that. Yeah.
Talk to me about the dating. Having your kids at home and going out on dates. And also your kids meeting a new guy every now and then. Because
right.
they're looking for somebody, then they're going to be meeting a new guy every now and then. So talk to us about that. How do they respond to these guys? And are these guys Christians? And what are your take on that? Let's talk about that.
All right, let's be honest about that. Okay, so so ideally, yes, it has to be a Christian. I mean, I start there. I think a part of me is jaded because I think I started off with a Christian guy and I've always dated Christian men and it never worked. And I was like, well, do I give the non-Christian guys a chance and just invite him to church? And then by the time he knows me for a year, he's going to be Christian anyway. Do I take that chance? So listen, everything plays on my mind. I don't know what the solution is until it happens. But when you have me back on God's scoop, when I find it, and then he and I will be there and I'll let you know if he started off as a Christian or not. But I think I'm a little bit more open-minded. Ideally, I'd like him to be. With the kids now, the kids are away with their dad now. So we're going for those dates, We're going for those dates physically. Going out to grab a bite. What do you say?
They're away with their dad. So is it a free range? Like you're free?
I'm trying to control things, but I'm taking advantage of the free time and no kids.
All right.
I'm trying to get out there. I went out last night with friends, or I'll, go to a formal setting, a coffee shop, and just be open to meeting people.
Right, but talk to me about whenever their kids are around and you are dating a guy you want to he's pursuing you and you're pursuing him to see if this works. How do you respond to these guys who's not their father? Let's talk about
that's happened a couple of times, but I think it really worked out well. Like one of the guys I had met online had a daughter their age, and so our first date was going horse riding with all our kids. So as far as they knew, it was just a play date, and their mommy has this new kid that they're hanging out with, and I'm checking him out as a dad. And so it was very inconspicuous. I don't know. I mean, maybe they keyed into it, but today me and that guy are good friends. I don't think we had chemistry for it to move into a relationship. But they have a really close friend, and I have a friend. So it worked out in that regard. But I still try to respect them when I'm dating when it comes to them.
Right.
So if I find a guy worthy enough and I really want to bring him around, I will. And then the second one, he was super adventurous, going out fishing, that type of thing. And then so we'd invite them all to the beach to have a fun day. So I'm very deliberate about, just making it seem, monitoring,
right
the situation, and just using my intuition with the kind of people they are, and making it an open setting if I were to do it like that.
Yeah, Calee, you know what I know as a woman too?
Yes.
Dating and liking somebody and then it doesn't work out and then you have to try again. How is that with you as a single mother?
It's hard. I mean, it breaks me down. It in one sense, it builds you up when it works, and in another sense, it breaks you down. I remember I was talking to a guy on the app, and we were talking fine, and then he asked me, what's your status? Are you married, dating, kids, whatever? So I said, I'm divorced, and then I sent him to my Instagram page. He immediately comes back on and blocks me on every single thing. Blocks me on Instagram, blocks me on the app.
Wow.
So I remember it just hurting me deeply.
Yeah.
Just the complete disregard of who you are, and people just completely shutting you out, whether because you have kids or they just don't see what they like, and that's a part of risk, right? You're gonna
absolutely.
Some people are going to be into you and others won't be, and just navigating not being hurt by everybody that swipes left and is not interested in what I have to offer. I'm working through that, but I think that would definitely be the downfall.
So, Calee, tell us. And thank you for your candidness. Really, thank you so much.
You make it easy.
I really want you to tell our listeners and our viewers, what are some things that you're looking for? You just never know. Somebody may be here. What are you looking for in a man as a divorcee and a single mother?
I mean, I haven't written this down a million times. It's the first time I'm actually thinking about this. Okay, so ideally, I believe that when you're looking for somebody, your core qualities, like the top 3 things that mean the most to you, the person needs to have. So I love Jesus, I love the Lord, and I really would love him to be a Christian.
Yes.
I'd like, you know, I mean, my friends and the people at work get at me. It's like, well, if you're looking for this is 1% of the demographic. Better you find somebody who, you know, So we'll see. But that is what I want somebody who makes me laugh. I like to laugh. We just have a great sense of humor, you know, like, or we have a shared humor. I want somebody easygoing that lets me be myself.
Yes.
Just like super chill. Somebody who's open for adventure, maybe travel.
Right.
I'm not trying to find a replacement for my kids. I have a great dad.
Right.
And so, but just somebody I guess they could look up to, you know, as I grew up, they could say, boy, this man who came into my mother's life really, really loved my mother. And so when I chose, you know, so when they choose their spouses, you know, they would have had a good role model in their life, you know, just somebody who respected. And that's the thing I think that hurts me the most as a single mom, that they don't see an example of what they need to look for necessarily. You know, they have great aunts and uncles, thank God. But in their own home, just seeing how, you know, just how a man to a woman should relate, I think it's very important for them to witness that, you know, as they navigate their own journeys. I would really love that.
Yes. Awesome.
I want a lot of chemistry. I really love sex, so it's a really, really big deal. And so that drive has to be, I mean, I don't know that I'll have a problem with that guy, but it's a big deal. At one point, I was just like, okay, I'm looking for 2 things. Companionship. I just want a broad shoulder that I can rest at the end of my day when work done and me and him can talk.
Yes.
And just 2. It was dwindled down to 2. Sex and a broad chest.
Yes.
That's really what it to be.
Broad chest. Okay. All right.
Because all of your life as a single mom is giving to them, giving to them. And so just to have that person that you come home to that is yours, you know, you're a person. You know, I want to prepare a meal and spread a table and do all the little picket fence and apron wearing baking things that wives and moms do.
Yes, I was asking you too.
Yeah, sorry.
About your deal breaker. What are some deal breakers?
What are my deal breakers? Maybe somebody who doesn't communicate well. I find that with dating, there's a lot of beta males. They're not alpha males at all. So you kind of have to push them, or you want to, you know, kind of push the conversation and they're not. And so I just think somebody who is just not a great communicator. Right. Somebody who is too intense. I'm such a butterfly, so I think we would just really clash heads if that person was on overdrive, just is super particular about everything.
Right.
That would be hard for me. And if he doesn't like kids.
Right.
And obviously the Christian thing, like if he's like some other religion or something, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not too particular at this point. Oh, and I have to really, really think he looks good. Yeah. Right. I have to be really attracted to him. So
yes. Because you actually wake up with him in the mornings, right?
Right.
All right. Calee, tell me and tell our listeners, especially our single mothers, because there's so many single mothers in our community and around the world. Just talk to them about, you know, how to navigate through life. You know, what are some suggestions that you have? And just before you even do that, I do that, and then I can ask you the other question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to be candid. I think I'm in the middle of my journey. I think a lot of times people do at these forums and approach it as though they are over the hump and they can give all the recommendations in the world because they've been there and done that. I'm a work in progress and I'm still journeying, still trying to figure it out. I love being a mother, and I have to stay close to God as best as I can, because I don't know how I would have done it outside of Him.
Yes.
Community is important. So I have a friend that I pray with every Monday, and I stay close to my group of friends, and they hold me up literally.
Yes.
They help me with my kids, whether for pickup, or they can keep an eye on them if I have to run out to the grocery store. Just all the things that help when I'm one man show, can't do it all. Just all, just the love that comes in. So I would say, pray for community. I think God will give you the desires of your heart concerning that.
Yes.
Find a church community.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing that has helped me. And having my kids has helped me, because again, I find purpose when I am low, when I'm just curled up in bed, when I'm feeling there's no hope, there's no reason. They gave me a reason, and I adore my children. If you know me and if you know anything about me, I am obsessed with my girls.
Yes.
I feel there's so much purpose in my motherhood, and I take it seriously. So if God comes now, I say,
yes,
says, I've given you these two. How are we doing?
yes.
I want him to say, boy, I entrusted you. And, so you never go on too bad with them. Yeah. So.
Yes. Calee, tell us.
Yes.
How has your heavenly lover been to you? How has he been? Your heavenly lover.
So there's this verse in Isaiah 54. I don't know if you can flip it on the screen. Isaiah 54, where it says, I'm trying to find the verse, but it says, the Lord is my spouse. And I remember for a long time, I was like, I don't want you to be my spouse. Every time people giving me this verse, it's almost like God kept giving me this chapter, this Isaiah 54 scripture. And the verse would come up when I read it. And I said, God, help me to be okay with seeing this line. Because for me, the line meant that he was going to be my husband, and I don't need any other earthly husband. But I did want an earthly husband. So I remember just not liking that line. But let me tell you something. You see, once I prayed and I came to grips, and he gave it to me, because I remember praying with the line and say, God, help me to accept this. Help me to accept you as my husband.
Yes.
And there has never been a better one. I mean, I don't think I look like I'm struggling to you. I did admit that I was. When my humanness takes over,
yes,
I'm really focused in on him. I have everything I need. He has superseded all my desires and expectations, all my dreams, and just in terms of financially, how he's taken me to live in my own home in Jamaica, and the way I've thrived, how I found a job, a great school, afford these really crazy expensive school fees, because I remember in the States, school fees are free. And I thought, boy, if my kids came home, I can't afford this life.
Yes.
I've had moments and times, but when I look back on the big picture, my kids have gone to school. They've finished the term. Each term, I'm like, oh, they finished the term. Where did I find the money? They've eaten. They're gone on trips. They have the clothes they need. I have a job. I have the flexibility. I pick them up every time I think I can't make it through a season, and I look back and I was like, we're here. How did we get here?
Right.
The lover of my soul has been
Amen.
Everything.
Amen. Yes. I'm going to ask you one question I love to ask.
Yes.
And that is, if you could change anything about your journey, what would it be?
This is crazy. I was driving in my car home from an event yesterday, and I remember thinking, I don't know. I remember thinking, I wonder if I left my marriage thinking, oh, it would be easy for me to find something else, like when I was younger.
Right.
I think if I could go back in time,
yes,
I'd probably give it a better shot.
Right.
Really go through the struggle and the sufferation and pray in hopes that I could land somewhere. So I think now when I think about marriage, I am just like, there's nothing that's going to be a deal breaker. Like, I'm going to make it work. If I have to sleep in 2 different rooms, if we have to keep doing counseling, if I'm going to have to pray until our last day, but I am not budging. If you are budging, you're budging, but I am not going anywhere. Because, I think the idea of God being married to the church, and that's what marriage is, it's just showing, how God is married to us. Some of us are easier to love and some aren't, but he is steadfast. And
Yes.
if I could get married and stay steadfast through trials, steadfast through infidelity, I don't know if I would. I can't, obviously, I don't want to negate that some people are going through physical abuse and that type of thing. I don't encourage anybody to stay in anything like that.
Right.
For their own well-being and life and living. But in terms of all the other things, when I hear people talking about growing apart, I think the commitment is bigger than those emotional things that we feel and the things that we weather. I'm in a so much more mature place now concerning relationships.
I thank you.
Yeah, did I answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for being so candid with that. If there's anything that you want to leave with our listeners, is there anything?
Guys, be gracious with yourselves, for there is therefore no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. And God sees us and he cannot love us more than he loves us now. And I think when I go through my darkest days and I think I've lost it and I've tried to find my own human solutions to weather the storms, I just realized that he's still like standing there. When you clear the storm and the clouds, he's like standing there waiting. He sees you. He loves you. He's so proud of you and he wants you to see him. So I would say, find him, connect with him. For the last week, I remember I haven't been in my word. I've just been so sore. And I woke up this morning and I had my devotions and it was so enriching to be fed by him. And, the things I got from scripture were exactly the things I needed to hear. And he allowed me to cut off some situations that I had been entertaining that I shouldn't have. And finding him and just coming back to him is the best thing you can ever do. And it's the only hope there is. As much as we want to think that, this day and age, everybody's their own God and we can figure out our own scenarios and we can, live this new age kind of manifestation and positive thinking. And I just think nothing happens outside of him. I find full peace in him when I'm focused on him. And there is no other answer to any of what we're going through. So,
yes, Calee.
Yeah.
Calee, thank you. Calee King, thank you for sharing on God Scoop. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing on Raw and Unedited Stories. And to our listeners, if you have a story to share, you can click the link below. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. Have a phenomenal day.